It's really great to talk to you. I've watched you guys for a long time and admired your family, everything that you do. Just cheerlead you guys. I know what you stand for, and all the times. We just you make. I think watching you guys make everybody feel like they're part of your family.
Aw.
So I always thought that was a really, really cool, nice thing. So we have a connection. I feel like I know you, and you're just now meeting me. But
Well,
anyway, appreciate
thank you.
having the
That's so
chance to
nice.
talk.
Nice to meet you. Yeah.
Thank you. Great
Yeah.
to meet you.
So this film, that we're going to talk about here, I would imagine it's probably been in development for a while. Can you talk about that? Because I mean, you guys have been going for a long time. I'm not sure when that first exploded. Was it, well, like 15 years ago? Has it been that long?
Let's see.
11 on the show. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But we had a show
The
before
movies-
that one. So yeah, about 15 years. That sounds about right.
The movie's been in development for 50
About
years.
50 years.
That's when it, yeah.
About 60. 60 when Phil and Kay met, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so a couple of years for the film, actually Willie's cousin, Zach Dasher, who's partners with us in our production company, Tread Lively. When you see the film, you'll get to know Aunt Jan, who is Kay's sister. Zach is her son, and he's the one who really kind of came up with it and said, I really think we need to tell this story in a film. And we were kind of like, whoa, that's a little intimidating to come out there. And, your first film you come out of the gate with being our family story, but it felt right. It felt like, yeah, that was what we need to do. As we kind of started talking to people about it, people were like, yeah, you got to do this. You got to do this. So, yeah, a couple of years later, here we are, and September 28th, our film will be in theaters.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it. I think it's going to be a big deal. I've talked to many people about, the first God's Not Dead movie. And one of the things that people point to was they said that's the first time the Robertsons were on camera, really, in a movie like that. So a lot of times people have said we try to replicate that success, but there were so many things going for it. And that was one of the, I feel like those in the industry point that was one of the crown jewels, that it was just like, even it was a cameo or whatever. So I feel like this movie is going to have a lot of attention, a lot of momentum behind it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully so. I think with the movie like God's Not Dead, Duck Dynasty, all the things that happen, I think you're seeing the aftermath of our family. And so on this movie, we take you back just to show people how close it was to never materializing, the family falling apart. Right. There being no company, there being no duck commander. Dad would have never done that. And then really they wouldn't have been together, which my life would have changed drastically. And yeah, I don't know that I would have met Korie. We met at church camp, and church camp was new for us because we didn't go to church, but we didn't go to church before. And so all these things were new. And just as life has turned out, it's amazing the story, how the gospel changed that couple's life. And they were in South Arkansas, 3 little kids at the time. And now I'm 51, and you can go that much further, see all the impact that the gospel has made through Duck Dynasty, through podcasts, through all the books we've written, the movies, what Sadie's done all over the world. And I can trace it all back, the spiritual 23andMe, all the way back to this little couple. And so it would have been, it has been so hard to even imagine that could have come out of that. But thank God that preacher went up and drove up there, and because Aunt Jan begged him to, and shared the gospel with Phil, and he obeyed it. And thank God that Kay forgave Phil, was willing to put that marriage back together. And the story's honestly is more about Kay, I feel like, than even Phil. Phil had this drastic life change, but his life was the one that was, in the toilet and so bad, and so, but Kay, having that strength to stay with him, it's amazing.
Yeah, and I think when people say we don't see a lot of miracles in life anymore, and this is a story of a miracle,
Hmm.
and it's not somebody growing an arm back or anything like that, but it's no less miraculous because you see, like you say, if you were not a believer, you would say, oh, it's a random encounter, it's coincidence, but we know that it's providence, it's the hand of God.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely. I love that you say that because I do think that, you know, there's this thing like people don't change. People say, oh, people don't change, but actually with God and through Jesus, like people can change. And I think Phil's life is real proof of that because his life was going one way. And whenever, Jesus came into it, it went a whole different direction. And that is miraculous. It doesn't just happen by chance.
yeah. Korie, you mentioned earlier for this to be our first movie out of the gate would signify that you have more coming. What is a what
We
does the future
What
do.
look
else
like?
is behind the gate? Corey? I'd
Yeah,
like to know.
Well, we actually do. So we did start a production company called Tread Lively. And really that came because we made the show Duck Dynasty and realized the impact and the power of it for the gospel. We had this little prayer at the end of a funny, kind of quirky show about our family. And the way it impacted people was just so powerful. People would come up with tears in their eyes and say, our family prays together because of your show, or my husband goes to church now because of your show. And we just kind of saw that impact and thought, hey, we need to do more of that. And also we realized people were yearning for that. Like they want more. And like you mentioned, God's Not Dead, the success of that said, we want more of that. We want more things that are faith-filled, positive, hopeful. And honestly, you don't get a lot of that in entertainment right now. And so we're setting out to do more of it. And we do have a couple more films in the can, not, in pre-production,
Around
in the
the
works,
can.
around the can, in the works, and are excited to do more of
Yeah,
this.
it's hard. I mean, the movie business is hard, obviously, right now. Actors and writers are on strike, so that makes it more difficult, and that's affected us as well, so on some projects. And so, we were on Duck Dynasty. That was not our production company. We didn't really know anything about production, other than our videos we had made. But seeing that production, being a part of that, like Korie said, opened our eyes to how that can happen. And then being on God's Not Dead again, that was our first movie set to see how that works. And they're actually a lot different. Movies and what we did was a lot different. And so that's when we decided, hey, let's get into this and let's actually make more stuff, not about ourselves necessarily, even though we came out with
right.
a movie about mom and dad, but really more to tell other stories. And so that's what, getting into production, her more than me. I'm not as in love with production as a thing, but Korie really did and has those gifts, to say, hey, we can do this and help tell stories. And because I think the Robertsons, we were storytellers, and just naturally growing up, sitting around that dinner table, the same one that at the end of all the TV shows, we sat around that table and told stories our whole lives and heard stories. And so we didn't have a lot of TV. We didn't have much money. We certainly didn't have the internet or cell phone. So we told stories, stories about hunting and fishing and cooking and all the stories. And so learned to do that. And so kind of had that. And Korie's family was storytellers as well. Even at their family meals, would sit around, especially when her grandpa was there. Man, they had stories, and everything got together. It was like business, and all these stories were they kind of came around the dinner table, which is what happened in America. A lot of people don't sit around that dinner table anymore. They're out grabbing food,
Right.
and everybody's on the run. And so I think a lot of people saw that, was like, wow, that's a cool moment. And so hopefully we inspired other people to sit around that table. And we even have to be intentional today just to sit around that table and talk, gather everybody up, get the food, and then tell those stories as well.
Yeah, so that was the next question I was going to ask you, Willie, is success sometimes, failure can rip a family apart. Success can rip a family apart too, if they're not careful. And you guys, went from, this level to another level, like you mentioned, Sadie traveling everywhere, just everybody probably going their own way to a certain extent. So how does it stay together? How does it stay a family? Is it, like you said, sitting around the dinner table? Is it your faith? How's that been prevented from just every pitfall that people go through when they hit, like, the level of fame that you've had?
Well, anything can tear a family apart. Families are being torn apart all over, and most are not famous, most are not successful, and honestly, probably most are not even have any money. So, like, anything can get in there. And so, the key for us, the family dinners, all those kind of things are really more just byproducts that are coming out of truly having faith in God, truly taking our stand on the gospel, truly trying to live by the guidance of the Holy Spirit. These are the core things that we do, and they're authentic to our lives. And so we're not perfect. And when we do get off the track, when we do have those times, it's important forgiveness, which we say in the movie a lot, but even way past that, we have to forgive each other. We have to move on, and we have to, encourage one another. And so all these things that come out of the faith, I mean, pretty much the fruits of the Spirit, those are the things that kind of help: the love, the joy, the peace, patience, all these things that come out of the Spirit. And so, yeah, we have to remind each other that we talk about that. We study the word, we engage and have community really with people. Since Duck Dynasty, there's a community all over the world, that we're able to talk to, whether it's pastors or athletes or whoever it is who are believers, and they've kind of seen a little bit of, or a lot of that, what it's like to be in that spotlight. And so that's been helpful to share with them as well. And so to realize no matter what, you're not as good as what people say you are, and hopefully you're not as bad as what people say you are. And I don't look at social media because I really don't care. I understand, we've done things, but I can't get caught up in what somebody sitting in Indiana thinks about me at that particular moment. Right. So just try to focus on God, focus on the word, focus on our family, and then truly live by that faith, family, and ducks, or whatever that is, vocation, hobbies, everything else comes after that.
I was curious about this because it's really in the news. This guy who's singing, I know you've seen him, Oliver Anthony, who's singing this song out in the middle, and I know you don't sing, but I think the correlation for me is that he's touched a nerve with middle America. He's touched a nerve with people who feel like they're overlooked. And I feel like that's what your show did too, because in the middle of your show, there's all these other shows, about being rich and famous and life on the beach and all that. And then your show connected with like the everyday, ordinary people. And this guy, Oliver Anthony, have you thought anything? Have you seen what's happening with him? He's at the top of the charts today.
I was in Ukraine, so I missed when all that came out. So I've read some stuff about it, but I missed kind of the initial. I was out of the country for a while, so but yeah, I'm sure that I haven't even heard the song, but yeah, I'm sure. I think our show was certainly like that. Where it's like we're normal people, even though we have a show, I think people can relate. I think even through the family dynamics, they can relate to, I've got, my mom's just like Miss Kay, or I've got a crazy uncle, or I know how it's like trying to run a business, especially people in family businesses, I think can see that for sure. But yeah, I think that does resonate. And that's, Hollywood struggles with that, obviously, of even what's going on in the rest of the country, between the coasts, for sure. They struggle to know, what does a family look like? What does a family talk about? And that's why, you watch sitcoms or something, you're like, that's not a normal family. Yeah. Right. That's not what we would say is normal.
Yeah. I actually, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I've said that before, that I think our show and the success of our show said more about what the people were wanting and yearning for and hoping for than kind of like that we made this great show. Really it said I think it sent a message to Hollywood and to say, hey, like, people want shows that are positive and that we can laugh together and that we can watch with our 3-year-old and our grandpa and not feel like we're worried about what we're going to see or hear,
Right.
And so I think that that's kind of, he's touched that nerve as well. It's like saying like, hey, we're wanting something that's positive and faith filled. And I think as we keep saying that, and that is why it's important that people show up to the theater to see movies like The Blind and Jesus Revolution and all these, and watch The Chosen, things like that, because we do have to keep saying to the world and to Hollywood, like, hey, we want more of this. And when you show up and you watch it, that's really the message that it sends.
Yeah, I think people like to see themselves represented. And when they're represented a normal family, then it connects with them. Appreciate you guys. Hope the family's well. Love you all. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.